Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report. Wherever you get your podcast, you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media. That's AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. And also one programming note on Wednesday, the second day of the joint practices, I'm going to do another live stream for everybody. So want to get all your questions again. I know there's a lot of questions throughout training camp. So I'm going to do a live stream. It's at 5:30 Eastern time. That gives me a chance to watch practice, do some work, and get home back to where I live. I can do it from my office. Life is good when I do that. Anyway, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, live stream on Wednesday, wrapping up the 2-day joint practice sessions. So join me there, bring your questions, and we'll have a good time. All right, so let's set the scene for today's practice against the Ravens up here in Owings Mills. As you can see, I'm in the visiting media press room, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. So here's the scene. So there's two main fields out here. There's a third field that's kind of runs perpendicular to the two main fields. That's where a lot of the injured guys were, and that's like Logan Thomas was over there working out during the session. That's a good step for him. Got the calf injury still. Benjamin St. Juste was over there as well. Two other injury updates. Chase Young did not practice. He had his helmet. He was dressed up, had his helmet. Certainly was very loud and very vocal. So would get on the field and made his I guess voice known, because that's about all that he was able to do. He wasn't practicing, and we don't know about him for tomorrow. For Darian Mathis, I saw him sitting on a chair in where the players would go in to go to their locker room or to get dressed or whatever. Had a walking boot on his left foot that went up to his knee. So he's got that calf injury. So there you go for him. I don't know yet what his outlook is or what his status is for, any short-term or long-term anyway. So Joe Gibbs was here for this practice. So was new owner, Josh Harris. I think it's a good thing to come here because it's a big deal. That's first, but secondly, it's a really good facility. And I think when the one thing that that Harris and his group can do right away, within the next couple of years, they can sell the property in Ashburn and build another facility somewhere else. And most likely it would be in Virginia. I don't know necessarily what their thinking is. I know the thinking before was you're not leaving Virginia with the practice facility because they have the deals for the sports books. And the only way they can make money with the sports books is by having a headquarters through Virginia, is having a headquarters in Virginia. So if they want to still make money off that, they're going to keep their practice facility in Virginia. That's why they could do that before they do build a stadium. Be a much easier process. And I think, when you look at the facility up here, it's pretty nice. Anyway. So let's get on to the on-field stuff and the work that was done, because there was a lot of it. So let's start with, some of the things that there were the benefits of this. And we were talking to Nick Gates afterwards, and this, Terry McLaurin talked about this as well. And just when you're going against the same guys every day, not only do you get used to the schemes and all that, but you get used to their habits, their strength. You're working against John Allen, Deron Payne, you're countering what they do very well. Well, then when you go up against the Ravens guys, for example, a new guy, for not just for a few plays in a game, but for an extended one series after another, you've got to learn how to counter somebody else who's different. So for Gates, for example, going up against their nose tackle, Michael Pierce, different kind of player than Allen or Payne. So he's much more about the power through the middle, and just whereas Allen and Payne, quickness in addition to that power, but this guy's just more of a stout guy. So you have to learn how to, as Gates said, different bag of tricks. So that's the stuff that you get used to, which then helps you in a game. And I know like some players believe that these practices are better than preseason games. And I happen to believe that as well, because you can they got multiple full sessions with 11 on 11 ones versus ones, et cetera. Terry McLaurin talks about going up against corner Marlon Humphrey. So McLaurin oftentimes in practice will work against, he'll go up against Forbes, he'll go up against Kendall Fuller. A guy like Fuller, for example, you have to be really patient. It's a different style to attack him, right? You want to be really patient And, because he's going to be very patient. So if you aren't that way, he's going to just squat at the top of the route and wait for you to go, and then he's going to make his move. So whereas with Humphrey, much more about being physical. And that's something that you saw today in one of the, I think it was a 7-on-7. I posted, I think we may have a video of that'll go up on Ampire at some point. But in this one particular route, Terry goes up against him, and Humphrey is very physical. And McLaurin makes the break. He's like, you've got to match his physicality, because he also gets very handsy. Just a different style of corner, but that's what you're going to face. So it's why it's good to face somebody different than what you're used to. So on this play, he's able to get inside and break free from the hands, catch the ball, draw the flag, turns upfield, and because he knows there's a flag, so he yells out kind of playfully, and one. So, but it was an example of how he adjusted against a different corner. And that's something that he does really well, is he knows these corners very well, and he studies them, but he knows how to adjust and play to use his strengths to counter what they do. But every week he may end up switching it up because different styles. So that's something that I think is really good to work against for a guy like McLaurin, for any receiver. And, you see how that for Sam Howell, thought it was actually a pretty good day. There were some hiccups early on. And let me tell you one thing. It was hard for me when you're watching this stuff. You have two different fields. And so on one side, one field, it's Washington's offense against Baltimore's defense. On the other field, it's reverse, obviously, Washington's defense against Baltimore's offense. So to be able to watch them both, awfully, awfully difficult. So I just decided at first you're starting to watch everything and you see nothing. So you pick a side and you try to process what you're seeing with that particular side of the ball. So you're not having to go back and forth, because it's a long haul. And by just walking around there, you're going to miss plays on one side or the other. So I stuck a lot with the offense just to see how was Sam Howell developing and what was he looking like against his defense. And early in the first series, I'd say the timing was a little bit off. And Ron Rivera talked about that it was off. And I think sometimes there were some things with how when you're going up against a new defense and things that maybe are you trusting what you're seeing. I think that was part of it. But they did talk to him after that series, and thereafter, it was much better. In fact, the second series, you start to see a big emphasis on the quick game. That's going to be a huge point of emphasis for them this year. It's smart for a couple of reasons. One, because you can get the ball in the playmaker's hands, maybe get him in space. But two, I think with the protection, you're going to want to run a lot of that. And we saw that a lot. And one thing McLaurin said that he liked today, that he felt like that Howell's timing was good, and that when they were making their cuts, the ball was arriving right then. And you saw that. And it wasn't like it was perfect, but when it was working, that's what you were seeing. And I felt like Howell improved throughout the day and did a nice job. There were a couple throws that I wanted to point out. And one sequence where I thought it was a pretty good sequence I think it was like the third 11-on-11 series. But he had the interior line had a little bit of the Ravens were sending some pressure up the middle. Interior of the line handled it pretty well. And you see Sam Cosmi blocked down on the play. What I like here is that Howell steps to his right to where the opening is. And then he hits, I believe it was Curtis Samuel, down the middle. But just a really good job by the interior of the line. Good job by Howell stepping to the open area. He had it, and then he makes the throw. Then I think it may have been the next play. He takes two steps and that ball is out. And it was a little bit of a run fake and looked like an RPO. And I say look like because sometimes sometimes you need to go back, watch it was a true RPO. Anyway, what it does do though is it freezes the safety, Kyle Hamilton. And because of that, he takes 1-2, pulls the ball out, boom, the ball's out, and a zip out to the left to Jahan Dotson. And I'm going to point my finger, show my fingers how close Hamilton was to getting the ball. And I have my fingers less than an inch apart. So that little fake and then the arm strength got it there for Dotson. And that made all the difference on that play. And good arm strength too. And then there was another time where blitz up the middle. And we see this a lot in practice. They definitely practice, whether it's against air, whether it's against pressure, but throwing while you're backpedaling. And it's not like this is new, but we've see them do it a lot. And on this particular play, you have 3 receivers to left. McLaurin is the inside guy. It's a blitz. He just breaks, comes over the middle, backpedal, boom, hits them in stride. And that's one thing McLaurin said, is he was giving them a chance to run after the catch. I think that play was an example. A couple good routes by Cole Turner. He had one where he kind of freezes safety, comes off, looks like he stems inside, then starts up, and then he cuts back inside, gets the safety. I think he kind of freezes the safety a little bit. One thing I think that Turner's going to have to work on, and we saw this, and I'm going to get to this a little bit later, but just making sure that when he catches gets the ball, that he's got to hold on to the ball and not get his trip. We saw that in Cleveland. It was not ruled a fumble, but it was pretty close. So you don't want to take that chance. And then there was a ball today where he caught it and then it got stripped. And that led to one of the couple skirmishes that were there today. That led to one of them, but he's got to do a better job after the catch at just making sure he's holding on to that ball, because he's got some good route ability. And again, as I pointed out, Logan Thomas was doing some work today, and that's a good sign for them because they're going to need him. And, I think Turner's doing a nice job, but they're going to need Logan Thomas to be a factor this year. Also, there was another sequence with the offense. Good run by Antonio Gibson, zips through, off tackle on the left, runs through, who is it? Marcus Williams just lowers his shoulder, runs through him. And it's just a really nice run. Sideline gets all fired up. But then the next play, Gibson moves too early, false start. Bieniemy sends him out. Brian Robinson comes in. Next play, Howell would have been sacked. So you have one really good run and then two bad plays to set them back. And, you want to see a better situation there with the false starts and all that. Couple things that I also saw, but again, I thought overall the offense was all right. And you saw some pressure on the edges. There were definitely a couple times where both the tackles were giving some stuff up. I did like how how Cosme played inside with Gates, and even whether it's Sadiq Charles or Chris Paul, how they handled that as well. In the one-on-ones, I could see some of the one-on-ones with the D-line and the O-line because I was kind of in my line of vision where I was standing on the other side. So yeah, John Allen did a really nice job. So he won both his one-on-ones. I thought John Ridgway did a nice job driving his guy back on one of them. I think, and then F.A. Obata and Allen did a really good job on a stunt. They against the Ravens starters, and Allen breaks free inside because of it. But Obata, like I said, has had a solid camp. He's not going to be a great player. I think has had a solid camp. Another guy who's kind of opened some eyes, certainly has created a little bit of a name for himself this summer, is Michael Tinsley, receiver out of Penn State. Had a nice catch today on a ball from Jacoby Brissett on a deep out. And Tinsley, I think a big key for him too would be special teams play. But they clearly like him, but enough to keep him on the active roster, don't know that yet. But certainly enough to want to keep him around in some capacity.
The adventure park is ziplining through the trees. It's climbing from platform to platform. It's even an axe throwing competition with your friends. But what the adventure park really is opportunity. Reconnecting with friends and family, accomplishing a challenge, and making lasting memories. So book your visit today and choose your own adventure.
Oh, they also did some field goal work, and Joey Sly, he and Badgley were back and forth, both made them. Then you get to the 51-yard kick, and my God, Sly misses it badly to the right. It looked like some of my approach shots when I went out golfing last time, where you just like the green's over here and the ball's way over there. Just not a good kick. And then Badgley from the same distance snuck his in barely over the crossbar, but he did get it in. Now, as far as that competition goes, I still think it's going to come down to and for the most part, Sly's been good this summer until that kick. But I think a big factor here will be the kickoffs, and that's where Sly has a distinct advantage there. Ricky Stromberg, the rookie, got more work at right guard. I actually feel like he's handling it well. Like he understands, I think, what he has to do. Now, could he play it in a game? I think I can't say that yet, because you'd also have to see him. I haven't seen him move out in space. And I think that's one of the things from their guards that they're going to need with this screen game is to block in space. But when he's just blocking inside, he seems to do a solid, seems to have done a pretty good job so far. Again, I think he's still a center. But again, the key is, can he play it in a game in a pinch? Because if he can only play center, if they only trust him at center, he's not going to be active. So if they trust him to play guard in a pinch in a game, then I think he has a chance to be active. But again, it looked like the question I would have is he athletic enough to get out in space and do all that stuff? But he seems to, again, I told you yesterday, good awareness and I think good fundamentals, that helps. And could that get him through a game? We'll see, but there's a ways to go with him. It's only his first week playing guard in the NFL. He did play some in college as a freshman, but he's a center. That's what they drafted him for. But can he do it? And then the other one is Braden Daniels. And I know there's been a lot of criticism of him, not just from me but from others, about how he is developing. He's, again, with him, I think it's a few year project, right? To get to where they would want him to be. And we don't know yet. Is it going to be a tackle? Is it going to be a guard? But there were a couple plays today that I thought he did a better job. So if I'm going to talk about like he hasn't been developing, then you got to talk about, well, hey, you saw this, that was a good sign for him. There was one play in particular that I really liked because it just showed a little bit of a tenacity and a getting downfield with it. There was a pass play. He's pass blocking, locked onto a linebacker. I think linebacker around, I can't remember. Sorry. But the key on this one is ball gets released. The defensive player tries to get back into the play, but Daniel stays with him and stays with him and stays with him. The guy can't get in the play because Daniel stayed with him until the whistle blew. You like when you see something like that. And I think when he gets out in space, that's where you start to see the strength of his game. And I think that was a nice job there. So just some good work overall with that. And then, of course, I'm sure you've heard about some of the fights. They weren't that bad. I mean, I've seen, I was at all the other joint practices against the Jets, against the Texans. Those were some brawls. This was not a brawl. This was stopped before it got worse. But two things happened within a few minutes of each other that made it go, where this is going to go. Couple things. I know like Rivera and Harbaugh do not want any part of this. And I know a lot of coaches say that. I think some coaches secretly are okay with it. And I know Jay Gruden, back when they had the Texans in here, was like, he would say he didn't like it, but then he was glad at how they responded. In this case, Rivera and Harbaugh spoke before these practices to determine like, how are we going to handle this, right? And so the way they handled it, there was a little flare up on Washington sideline on offense, where after the Turner play where he gets stripped, and my vision was blocked, so I didn't have great vision as to what happened. I just know that things started to get heated, some talking a little bit, but the Ravens players seemed to police themselves on that side of the ball, and it really didn't go anywhere. But on the other side, that's when it got a little bit chippier, because that's where Emmanuel Forbes got into a little shoving match with Tyler Wallace, and some punches were thrown. And there was also one where Danny Johnson went to defend a pass to Mark Andrews, the tight end from Baltimore, and the video's out there. And this is how I saw it too, because I was way on the other side. I didn't see it. All I saw was the big circle of players from Washington and Baltimore. So when I saw it, you see the video, you see Johnson go try and strip the ball kind of aggressively, but that's what he's there to do. And then the ball's on the ground. Danny Johnson picks it up. Mark Andrews body slams him. So there was a skirmish there. There were definitely a lot of chippiness and all that. But then I think there was some physical things going on there too. But by and large, it was held in check. Harbaugh and Rivera brought them together in a circle and reminded them they're here to do work to make both teams better. That was the end of it. And that was the last time there's anything going on there, because you're not going to get great work. I think the good thing is too, and Nick Gates even said, he likes to go walk up to that line, then get the other player to go over the line, not himself, but the other player. So this tests you, like, where is your discipline at? And I know that sometimes you defend a teammate, you defend this, defend that. But I think in these cases, they want to see, because in the coach's minds, like what's going to happen in a game if this situation happens, and they don't want to lose guys. They don't want to lose 15 yards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, but that's where it ended. So, and that's where I end, because that's it for today. I will be back on Wednesday, again, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, a live stream, wrapping up day 2 of the joint practice, and then answering your questions about what I've seen from the first several weeks of training camp throughout, and then also these workouts. And I'm going to try and see more of the defense tomorrow to give you a better feel for what they were doing. But I really think it's important to watch the offense a lot, because that's the side of the ball that really needs to develop. I think those tackles, I want to watch more of that tackle play. Again, they both had a couple issues. It wasn't severe, but when there was some pressure, but it wasn't horrible, but there was some. Anyway, that's it. I will talk to you Wednesday, live stream, again, 5:30 Eastern time. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.